All right, if I could have your attention. Good afternoon. This is a park committee meeting for a video teleconference meeting as well for June the 13th, 2022. And the park committee members are Squire Tracy and Squire Muller and myself, Judge Wells. We welcome all of you here. I'm going to kind of go around the room and make sure that we've got everybody, but on Zoom, it looks like we've got Mark Kopp. I see Mark Kopp there. Hey, Mark.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, welcome. Also on Zoom, we have Ann Northcutt, our grants administrator. Within the room ourselves, we've got Sean Pickens with the city. We've got Houston Barber with the city independent school district. We've got Mayor Wilkerson. We've got City Manager Laura Hagg. We've got Charlie Lewis with the Franklin County Parks. We've also got Bill Cole and Mark Stone here, Robert Hewitt with Franklin County Planning and Zoning, and we've got our treasurer Susan Lawrenson and our deputy judge Timber Herod that are here today. So we welcome everybody. Today we're to talk about this meeting is pulled together because the county did an RFP to look at feasibility, and we felt part of Sports Authority 3 weeks ago, and during that time period, it was determined by the court that that was not the route that wanted to be taken. The route to be taken is today to talk about Sports Authority, how that's formed, what that does, its purpose, its intent, and how that will affect both the city and the county as part of tourism. And with that being said, all of us are here to have this discussion, and hopefully we can come to a means that can help us either write an RFP or keep moving forward or move in a direction where the court wants to go. Squire Tracy, you've been probably the most adamant, the most upfront about Sports Authority. So if you don't mind, I'm going to let you speak to what your thoughts and beliefs and direction we should go.
Thank you. Again, I'm not a professional on sports commissions. I just can tell you what I've been able to look up and find. And one thing I think is important to let everybody know, this isn't about taking anything away. It's about adding. And I think we can all agree, without a dedicated revenue stream, this project will never happen. Point blank. I think we're all smart enough to have that. So that's why we're here. So, and that's where the creation of the Sports Commission comes in. It's my understanding that in McCracken County, McCracken and Paducah, the leaders got together and they ultimately came to an agreement in regards to how they would be able to separate their tourism commission, but still working for one common goal, which is bringing tourism to the community. And they're exceeding at that very well. No one lost anything. Again, I think that's a big concern with everybody, is revenue. No one lost. This is all about adding. The creation of the Sports Commission was by the fiscal court. There's a board, from my understanding, there's a board that is the individuals that make up the commission. And they are the one that is spearheading the project. They are a little different than we are. They have a convention center. We don't. I think they put about $600,000 into flooring to allow them to host sporting activities, volleyball, basketball, so forth. 15, 16 months, that $600,000 investment brought $33 million into the community. Again, this whole thing is not about taking anything away. It's about adding something to ensure that there's a dedicated revenue stream.
Do you know how much that dedicated revenue stream is?
I know, less than 2 years, they've got over $2 million in the bank, and that's just the 3%. That's just the 3% that was added in regards to the sports commission.
What is that $2 million used for?
That $2 million is gonna be used to help fund the park. They haven't started on their park, from my understanding. They're operating the convention center.
None of that money goes towards the convention center?
Yeah, they still have that. Yeah, they're still the 1% that goes towards the convention center. Again, they came together, they worked as a group, they got it figured out, and now it's operating. Again, I don't think they've started to the park part of it, as far as the outdoor activities yet.
Magistrate Tracy, if I may add something, I spoke to when you all invited me to the meeting. I know the city manager of Paducah, so I had a call with him this morning to help understand. I watched y'all on June 1st. This is my first meeting, so thank you for including me. Here's what he told me, that yes, late last year, the city and county they signed an MOA. What they currently have for their convention and visitor, their 3% tax to support their convention and visitors, and that's what they currently have. And then what they did is they added an additional 2% for the sports commission. So now there's the 5% transient room tax. What they're working on, that initial funds, they have hired the sports facility management out of Florida to run, even though they don't, as you're exactly right, they don't have fields yet. But that's who they hired to run, and they are going to help them with the design build RFP and making sure that they build something that works for the community, that what they want to do, and especially for marketing and attracting tourists and sports conferences and tournaments. What they don't have right now is they started working on an ILA, the interlocal agreement, that how to construct and operate the tax or the money to do that jointly. They are working at it, haven't worked out it yet, but initially they're looking at 12 million from the city, 12 million from the county. So if you're roughly a little bit over that, it's about 25 million of the 42 million that they estimate to build a sports complex. So what they're working on now is coming up with that 17 million. So if the city's willing to bond 12 million, the county's willing to bond 12 million. So what the agreement they have to find is the additional 17 million to do all what they had planned to do.
So
So
they're
I just
well
thought
on
I
their
had-
way.
They haven't started yet,
No, I'm
but
talking with
they
the-
have an MOA, but that's yes, they're getting there.
What are they doing with the money that's been, as Scotty said, that's $2 million. What are they doing with that money?
I wasn't aware of that, but I'd be happy if there's a series of questions. One, I'm sure Darren wouldn't mind speaking to us, but I can happily call him back and speak to them, and definitely can learn from what they have done. But if there's additional questions, since I wasn't aware, I'd be happy to ask them.
They're trying to build an outdoor complex, fields. Okay.
Okay, and I guess one of the concerns that was brought up at our last meeting was the counties, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but the county is collecting is giving money to tourism.
Yes.
Through the hotel motel room tax.
Right.
And what percent is that of the?
3%.
3%.
Right.
As part of the agreement, Laura, I thought that I heard with from Squire Tracy with Paducah, McCracken County, was that 3% was now going to the Sports Authority and not to tourism.
No, it's an addition. As I understand it, there's an
They added
addition.
a 3%.
They added a 2%. It's
2%.
currently 3% for the convention and tourism, and then they added a 2% for the sports. So it's a 5% total transient.
Do you have any idea so the 3% tax is all created under a state statute, KRS. And there normally has to be some kind of state law that authorizes these things. Now, we have another 2% tax here that was, what was it, 2006 for the Grand Theater that was authorized under a different KRS. So do you have any idea? I'm sure you don't, but this is a question that you would ask. Under what authority did they add that 2%? Because part of the question is, I know that the county could take that 3% that is collected. I mean, hotels collect it. We send in checks to the county. At that point, the county sends it to tourism, and they could not send it to tourism. They could keep it. I know the county can do whatever they want with that money, but I know there's some talk about adding an additional 3% tax, that stacking idea onto the city. And so if that's what they were doing, then I'm interested to know where if that's even legal, or if anybody's doing that, is that authorized under any KRS? Can that be done legally is a question that needs to be answered.
And Judge, I'll follow in with Mark. Again, appreciate Squire Tracy's comments about adding, because this whole dream is going to require a lot of revenue from multiple sources. The plan says that, and not just a transient room tax from people from outside the county. It will require a local input in a tax form, for revenue from somewhere. If that bonding issue comes, then the money to pay that debt service will most likely have to come from some additional revenue from the county and the city, as the model has already been laid out in the Western Kentucky area. But as far as the statutes go, and again, Squire Tracy, just a little bit of information and digging through some of the local resources that we have, the LRC, and through our existing ordinance, 91A, right, that we formed our commission under right now, 91A 350 provides, we have an interlocal agreement with the city and the county for a joint tourism commission. So if the county chooses to create a new special district on its own, then the county's taxing authority separates from the existing commission. So there is a loser. The existing, I don't see, you're here, I guess, on behalf of tourism. So the existing tourism commission would be reformulated as just the city, in this case, Paducah did that, the city tourism commission, and you would lose the $200,000, or depending on if it's COVID year.
We're not.
But in 2019, it was around $200,000, I think, from the county, from the three existing locations from the county. So the existing tourism commission, if it was reformulated to act on its own, the city basically authorizes and has control of that 3%. We go to the city tourism commission. The county's new tax under the new special district would be under its control, and would, I guess, go to what's created as a sports commission authority. It would not be, those taxes would be controlled separately by separate governing bodies. Now, the 91A 392 is the enabling ordinance for the Grand Theater. And the county, that particular tax right now is countywide. So both city and county locations are paying that tax. And that, I believe, is the tax that Paducah and the Kraken are using for their bonding.
That's what I was wondering, because that 2% number kind of jumped out at me like that.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't have that tax in place before, then that's already authorized by the state legislature to be put in place. But we already have that tax in place here.
We do, at least for another 10 years.
Right.
Or until the bond,
2032.
yes, until the bond's paid off.
It may be.
So that one is already,
But not here.
that one is already being spoken for, and that's the one from the information that was referenced about Paducah that they were using for debt payments for a convention center. So as far as the overall tax goes and who pays what, there, that's on that's on the person who's renting the room. But as far as commission functions, tourism would lose.
Yeah.
Could I add one thing to it? Well, go ahead.
It's,
Mr. Mead.
it's like, if you don't care, if you could find out, it was my understanding that when they split or separated or went their own ways, that the county 3% transient room tax went with them. And then the city was able to enact a 3% room tax in the city limits.
Okay.
Right. That's what the law allows.
So enact,
But it is, it makes 6%. It means the city hotels are paying 6% at the end, 3 to the sports commission and 3 to the tourism commission. So it is doubling the rate on city hotels, at least in Paducah it was.
But the law doesn't allow that percent.
No, the law does. It's the sports authority that has the
the
authority.
commission would lose. Okay, and then it's my understanding there's about 250 or so rooms in the county. Is that about accurate?
Yeah, but, yeah.
Okay, so you could say that you may lose those rooms, but yet you're getting ready to get 80 back on the line that are gonna be open in downtown.
Right.
And that doesn't count all the Airbnbs and overnight stays that we're not being able to collect right
And that's
now.
gonna go a long way once that is enacted to collect that money, because there is quite a bit of money out there, we think. That will be collected as soon as the new legislative, the new law they pass, as soon as that's enacted and enforced. Then, that will enable a lot more money to be collected. How much, we really don't know. But, we'll find out when everybody else finds out, I guess.
In y'all's previous, may I ask a question?
Please, this is all discussion.
Okay, in y'all's previous discussions about this, have you looked at creating I would say a parks recreation district, but do it as a mill levy as part of property taxes like we do with the library? Where there's some communities across the nation that have created specifically a parks and recreation district. It'll be for the whole community, but they did it by a mill levy. So everybody contributes and then you'd have a joint authority. So a joint, it'll be a parks board, but that could be for all the parks, sports, different things like that. But that is another, as you're all talking about funding mechanisms, I don't know if you've talked about that, but that is another example that other communities have done.
That has not been discussed.
Okay.
I think what we're trying to do here, and thanks everybody for coming, thanks, this is a big thing, Franklin County. But I think what we're trying not to do is put it on the citizens here. We're more looking to, nothing against tourism and stuff, but I know if we travel, it's not a big deal to pay, extra taxes and stuff like that, because you're traveling. It's sports, it's vacation, whatever. So that's kind of, I think, the line we were trying to hold, trying to figure out a mechanism that is not gonna cost our citizens more money. So that's probably why we haven't looked at that, at least at this point. But I mean, I think that's why we're trying to get to a point to hire an organization to help us figure all this out. Because like Squire Tracy said, when he sat there, he said, first thing I'm not is an expert on all this. And Susan, I appreciate your input and everybody's input and your email, Mr. Cullen. But I think we're to the point that we need to figure it out. But until we get the people at the table that know how to do this, we're just kind of guessing. And that's no disrespect to anybody in this room. It's just not what we do. This is the first time, but obviously it's been done. And so we just need to figure out the organizations who have done it and get them at the table to explain it and say what our best course of action is.
Well, one of the pieces that, with this group at the table is for the city and the county to be talking, because there's several aspects of this as it moves forward, that the city and county are gonna have to be collaborators together. And I'm glad to see the schools there, because they're gonna have to be collaborators too.
Absolutely.
One is the fields. We can't do anything with just what we have at Lakeview Park. It has to be the city ball fields and the county ball fields.
And ultimately,
More
the
than
schools
likely
too.
the schools.
Correct. Yes.
Ball fields as well. So those collaborators are gonna have to be talking. That's why we're here today, to talk about that. Yeah, the other part is how we're gonna fund it. And that's another piece, because as Squire Tracy said, he didn't know anything about it and didn't know a lot about it. And none of us at this table, from what I hear, are experts in what to do. So as a part of the county, part of this today's discussion is how do we move forward in trying to find out what we don't know, which is a whole lot with an RFP. We tried that before. We thought we had it. The court agreed on it. The court voted on it. When we got the RFP, it wasn't what we wanted. So I'm reluctant to send anything back to the court until we are pretty valid on what we want to do. So we can get somebody in to help us with this. But while we've got everybody at this table, Mark Kopp and Houston Barber and Mayor, City Manager, Sean, Charlie, there has to be some type of an agreement that we're going to all participate in this in some form or fashion. They're willing to do this because Lakeview Park can't be just the answer for this type of magnitude of facilities, whether they just be outdoor facilities or even down the road an indoor facility. Go ahead, Sparmo.
Thank you, Judge. Again, thanks everybody for being here, but I know this meeting was about an RFP, but I think since everybody's here is at the table, I think we need to take a step back and talk as school, city, county, and really look at the overall view, like the judge was just saying, of we know we have a need for an indoor pool. And I know Mr. Cobb's going to jump in real quick on this one. You know, I know the mayor has ideas of what his vision is, and the city commission and the independent schools. So, I mean, I guess it's going off what the judge says, you know, I mean, I think this group needs to really look at the community as a whole and figure out what needs to go where, what makes the most sense for tourism, moving people around. You know, is it best here? Is it best here? Is it best here? I mean, I think that's where we are in the whole process. So, I mean, I'd love to hear from Mark or Houston or Lane or whoever, as far as what's your individual, you know, who you're representing, what your thoughts are. Because I know, Mayor, last time you were here, you know, it was kind of really the first time I think you looked at our plan. And that's the first time that we had talked about, to the judge's point, you know, if we build 3 multi-purpose fields, we really need a city to build 3 more to host bigger tournaments. That's what we're trying to get, is the big draws, the 4-day tournaments. And is it possible to use the school system's fields too? So, I mean, I think that's a lot of conversations that really we need to be having.
Well, if y'all don't mind, sorry I can't be there in person. I'm a little under the weather today. I honestly don't think you want what I've got. So I appreciate you allowing me to join via Zoom. I appreciate everything that Michael just said, and also what Judge Wells just said. And that's why I'm here. We all do need to collaborate, and representing the school system in the county, we are at the table because we want to be at the table. We want to be collaborators because we firmly believe that if we're able to do something together, we're going to make this community grow, and that's going to help us. It's going to help Houston and Frankfort Independent. It's going to help our whole community. As far as an indoor swimming pool goes, yes, that's something that's obviously very important to the community. We've just purchased a central office building and 3 additional lots next to it. And the intention, at least right now, is at least to consider using those 3 lots as a potential site for an indoor swimming facility / performing arts center, where we could create our own SCAPA here in Franklin County. So all of those things are on the table. We're very willing and hopeful collaborators, and we're very hopeful of working with you all to make this happen. Now, that sounds like a wonderful speech, and you know, I'm glad that all those words sound good, but now is the time to act. And I think more than anything else, we are willing, ready, and able to act and work together. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, I'll just add to, and Mark, hope you get better, man. Just thinking about you. I think the most important thing, and again, as a citizen, as a father in the community, and superintendent, is that we collaborate and come up with a system that applies to all of our families, all of our community, and as well as outsiders who are coming in, because there's a lot of people that visit every day. and how can we best utilize that and become efficient. I will say, I was a part of some planning from the Parklands of Floyd's Fork. It was one of the best planning mechanisms, design, and creative structure that I've ever seen that used private funding mostly and some public dollars, of course, from grants, but they delivered. And Dan Jones, I would suggest you meet with because he is not only delivered, but you know what a Parklands of Floyd's Fork. And I understand it's Louisville, but it was also a dream, a vision that came alive because he brought people together and an entire community has invested in that structure. And I spent a lot of time seeing successful results come out of that. The other thing is, I would ask these questions, this is my finance brain ticking on. What is the bonding capacity currently with Franklin County?
Susan, can you answer that?
I don't know if you can,
80 million?
yeah, and the bonding capacity for city? I mean, you may or may not.
I don't know.
it's north of 80.
Yeah, and then a combination thereof, I'm just speaking, and then other sources obviously tying into that, and then the tax bonding capacity predictive models, because at the end of the day, it does go back to what Scotty says, which is if you don't have a revenue stream, development, payback operation is just not feasible. But I do, not to say anything. I'm like Mark. I think there's been a lot of talk for a long time. So the question is, are we willing to come to the table? And I'm saying, are we willing? And what does it look like? And if it's something that we want to do together, or is it something we want to do together but separately? So I think that's just something that's really important. But I do look forward to seeing how these conversations develop. I'll be active in the community, so invite me to as a citizen. But I do think representing the school system, they do want to be involved and would like to participate in those dreams and visions and make things happen the best we can.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start focusing, and we're all talking 30,000 feet at the moment, which is fine, which is good. But Squire Tracy and Squire Muller, you all have been leading this, and you said, Squire Muller, several times, just a moment ago, that we need that you see 3 ball fields, I think it's soccer fields being turfed. And you want the city to do the same thing to form as part of this collaboration. Is that correct?
Well,
Is that your vision?
it's not mine. It's what Hitchcock Group in the master plan, when they presented it to us, said, if we want regional tournaments, we need more than 3. We need a minimum of 5. So I mean, ultimately, if we had both school systems on, we could do it, but it would make more sense. The more fields we have, the bigger tournaments, but that was all in the master plan.
So I don't,
Yeah,
what I'm trying to do is,
yeah.
I'm trying to bring this conversation back to ball fields, that the city needs to hear this, because we did this master plan, they did not. And so they need to hear, and the discussion needs to start, if ball fields are the key to this step, the next step in moving forward to getting this going, they need to know that, and there needs to be a discussion about that. Do you all, how many soccer fields do you all as the city have?
We have,
Yeah.
well, really only full-size soccer fields, probably 3, and that's stretching it. Because 2 of them are a little smaller. You couldn't have, they're probably not big enough to have full-fledged soccer.
Soccer.
Yeah, Sauer 1 is, but now could they be adapted to fit? Yes.
Is Sauer 1 the turf field already?
No, we don't have, there's no turf fields in our.
Did you all budget for a turf field?
Before
my time, if we did.
No, it's never been budgeted.
Okay.
It's in the master plan to
Okay.
turf 2 fields, Sauer 1 and Sauer 2. But it's
Okay.
not been budgeted yet. no.
Okay, so you all are kind of at the same stage then that we are. We had the fields, but they're not turfed.
Yeah.
Nor budgeted to do this. Squire Tracy?
So there's 2 fields in the city master plan, correct?
Yeah, in the
That-
plan, yes.
Okay.
That doesn't mean, that's in the master plan, yes. Doesn't mean we
And
can
then-
expand to 3. Then you've got the football field that's down there that potentially could be turfed as well. But like, again, the Sour One and Sour One's really the full size soccer field. The other ones are, it'd be really pushing it. We'd have to do some grading work. We have to fill in dirt to make them big enough to host. You know, unless they're all going to be like 10-year-olds or less. If we want, teenagers and adults playing, we'll need to do some work.
We're the same way. All fields are not big enough.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess with that being said, so you're looking, if there's a commitment by the city to follow their master plan. So you're looking at 3 at Lakeview with potential to have 5 if the county school system comes together for a partnership. So there's actually potential to have 5 at Lakeview. And then you add the 2 school systems, or the county schools, they have 2, which would give us a total of 7. And then if the city were to be committed to their 2, possibly 3, that would give us 9 to 10. And if you're looking at that, you're looking at, Frankfurt's not that big, but if you're hosting tournaments at 10 different locations, everybody benefits. It's circulation in our community. So they're not just eating at La Fiesta, they're eating downtown, they're eating on the west end of town. Everybody would benefit if the circulation was there to get potentially 10 fields, 9 fields, 10 fields. I don't know what the difference is. I'm sure this guy knows what the difference is as far as revenue, because he visits them every weekend. So, but again, that's just, there's potential to have that here.
Do they all have to be turfed or can they be grass? That's another issue that needs to be discussed.
They can be grass, but maintenance it can be just as costly. I've talked to Sean about this.
Yeah.
You're talking about, if you do it right, I mean, it can be $40,000 to $50,000 a year just to invest on one field.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you get turf, it is costly up front, but you're low maintenance.
And there's some hesitancy.
As you may say,
Tournaments has a little bit of hesitancy.
Yeah.
to come to
about-
grass. That's what I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
that's. when
Because
I
they put a
asked
lot of money into it, then there's a lot of rain, and then
that.
so, not that they won't come to grass fields, but
They like playing their championship on grass, but only if it's available,
And
otherwise-
just,
Grass or turf?
Yeah,
yeah, and just,
but
If I-
they will play on turf mostly, is what I'm saying.
if I could jump in here real quick, just when we were putting in the 2 turf fields that we did, in order to hold tournaments at the KHSAA level, district size turf fields at a minimum need to be 60 yards wide and 110 yards long. So when you're thinking about games, matches, that would be a minimum size requirement. To hold regionals, you have to have at least 65 yards wide. So when you're talking about the size of your fields at the city, those would be the specifications to at least begin taking a look at.
very tight at Capitol View.
Very tight.
Yes.
What about ours?
Outside of
Are ours legit for that size?
No.
So it's gonna be a lot of
Fill dirt,
A
build
lot
up.
a lot of work to get to that, to get to this point.
Sean, we could put all 3 down at Capitol View.
Yes.
And Mark, what was the cost of yours?
We'd have to do some work like we're talking here.
Mark, well,
Mark,
Mark
Yeah.
already you had a football field. Is a football field legitimate size for?
Yeah. Yes, ours ended up being about 71 yards wide. They really only needed to be 65. We were told at the beginning from some folks, oh, those aren't wide enough. Well, we went down and measured them, and they're fine. We can actually host regional tournaments. As far as the cost goes, things have gone up in the last 2 years. So I'll throw out a couple of numbers for you, but they're going to be low. One of our fields was 1.2 million, and the other was about 850,000. It was a little over $2 million for both fields. That's probably jumped up to 2.5 to 3, I would guess now, with the way everything else is.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a 1.3, 1.4 per field, Mark.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable estimate. We just met with the Moats Group, who is working with Hardin County Schools. They wanted to come up and take a look at our fields, And that's, ballparking about where they're looking for their 3 high schools as well, somewhere in that 1.25 to 1.5 million per field.
I do think, and I think you're right with the cost going up and everything, but let's say hypothetically, and I just don't want to sit here and talk about multi-use fields all day, but let's say we did 3 and 3. I guarantee if we get a company that's coming to do 6 fields, it's gonna drastically reduce the price.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yep.
That's a lot of fields right there.
Yeah, but
I agree.
you didn't have to change any of the fields though, Mark. In our case, we don't have any fields that fit that standard. So we would have to do a lot of lot of work on that. They don't have any fields that fit that standard. So there would be a
Sour
lot
one's
of,
close.
there would be $200,000 or $300,000 worth of.
Yeah.
Well, we did, the thing about our fields, Franklin County was pretty much plug and play, and that was why it was a little less expensive. Western Hills required an incredible amount of fill because it sits in a bowl. So the low level, we had to bring in a bunch of fill, and that did raise the costs. And that's the cost where I said it was about 1.2 million for Western Hills. So, it was a little bit of prep work there. But
All of these would require.
Yeah.
$200,000 to $400,000 worth of fill to get ready, I would think. What'd you think, Sean?
oh, yeah. Our other outside of Sour 1, Sour 2, and then Sour 3 or the select field, they're short. They're too short. And they're not wide enough, so they have to be widened and lengthened.
But ultimately, when they build these fields, they have to dig them down anyways.
Yeah,
There's just so much infrastructure under
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
so they're dozing anyway, so.
yeah,
It's actually probably easier if they can leave the spoils on site than having to haul them out of there.
Right, yeah.
So I don't know. if
The
that's-
drainage on those fields are, at least
Yeah.
you go down 6 feet in some areas. I went up and watched them build Franklin County.
Yeah,
And it was amazing what's underneath those fields.
yeah.
yeah, it's
Oh, we
not,
just see the top.
the expense is not really just the top. I mean,
No.
yeah, it's expensive. It's what's under
Tremendous
the
amount of
expense.
drainage.
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's you're building a drainage system under each field. That's where your impact is because of the gravel that you bring in, covering up the pipes. When you're just thinking turf, you're thinking about carpet and a carpet pad underneath it and some rubber flakes. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into those. But the positive with that, obviously, is it can pour rain. You can get 5 inches of rain, and then as soon as it stops raining, you can play on it. So, there's a big advantage to that.
Yeah, rain does not stop turf play.
No,
Lightning does.
yeah.
It can rain all day.
Squire Tracy, Squire Muller, as part of this discussion, are you all thinking about turf in the softball fields as well?
I think that's what's, I don't remember what that said in there. I think that's what's proposed in the master plan.
I don't remember exactly what the master plan said on that, if it was infields only, if it was the whole one. I'm not as familiar with that. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and read that. So I guess, let me ask, since everybody's here, Mary, you're being kind of quiet today on us. So,
I'm listening.
yeah, no, I can tell. But, I'm trying to look at this. So for me, to Judge's point, we have the multi-use fields that will help things, but then we also have the aquatic pool. We have maybe a large indoor building. We're still talking convention, things like that. So the kickbacks I've gotten on certain things from constituents is, does the pool need to go on the west side? And Mark, I appreciate you all buying that land and stuff, but I'm looking at this long-term layout plan. What's best case scenario for Franklin County? So does it make the most sense to put it over there? Does the city have any more land off the connector? Where do you see? I think, Mayor, you and I have had some talks about, performing arts or convention, your thoughts where that should go. So, to me, I think there's some big items that we need to strategically figure out what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do them, who's gonna do them before, so we all get on the same page. I think we need to figure the roadmap out first and then figure how to get there.
As part of the roadmap, and now that all this discussion has been great, it comes back to Squire Tracy and you have both said that to begin the roadmap, we need money. And the way to get money is to form a sports authority. So in your mind, is the sports authority the key to making money? Is it a county sports authority? Is it a city county sports authority? I ask you that question because I don't know. So as part of the sports authority since McCracken and Paducah have been the model, it is a county sports authority and the city is separate. But they are together and putting the monies together to build the facility. Is that the model that you all are thinking of? Because I think that's going to be important in what the next step is. How we write an RFP. What we're looking for in an RFP.
For me, the RFP is about that dedicated revenue stream. And that's by the sports commission. If
But
I'm
is
not
that a
mistaken,
county sports
if
commission?
I'm not mistaken, the sports commission is set up a whole lot like tourism. There are hotel owners or managers on that commission. And then I believe there is a mayor appointment. And I want to say there's a judge appointment, and I'd have to go back and look at it again. But I'm thinking
I think
it's
they modeled
made
just
up.
like the-
Yeah, it almost
It's the same-
mirrors,
it's the
yes.
same-
Yeah, basically, it's just specified by the.
It's the same statutes.
Yeah, so, as far as the commission, I want to say it's the county because that's where the revenue is coming through. But again, there is city representation on that board, yeah, from my understanding.
If it was a city and county sports commission, part of the question that we at tourism would have is if it is split like, and Laura, maybe this is a question you can ask city manager down there. If it was split between, so in Paducah and McCracken, so they just formed a Paducah Tourist Commission and McCracken Sports Commission. The question that would want to be answered is, okay, so there are some attractions that are only in the county. So Franklin County, there are a handful, well, there are 14 actually, I meant to bring a list of them, but Robin counted them, there are 14 different attractions that are just in the county that now the Franklin County CVB markets all of those attractions. If it splits and there just becomes a city tourism commission, then whose response, is that sports commission going to take on responsibility for marketing those other attractions in the county, like Josephine Sculpture Park, that don't have anything to do with sports, but still have always had some marketing support from tourism? So that's another question to kind of throw in there. If it was a city county, if we remained a city county tourism commission and a city county sports commission, then that might work better in some ways, because then the tourism commission would still be responsible for marketing all the attractions in the city and the county. And the sports commission would handle sports in city and county also. So not to throw another wrench into it, but the different attractions in the county are definitely going to have that question if they find out that the revenue stream that had been helping to provide their marketing is maybe not going to be there. And are we going to throw that on the city, even though no revenue will be coming to the new city, the proposed city tourism commission? Would they still be expected to market attractions that are only in the county, even though they're not collecting any county money? So it's just another question that has to be answered down the road somewhere.
No, I think it's great questions, but in regards to no more money coming in, I think the money comes in from the overnight stays that the community's benefited from in regards to the sports desk at the park.
Absolutely, when that money comes in, but then how many years down the road are you looking at until that revenue stream? Believe me, nobody wants to sell hotel rooms.
Yeah.
But it is going to be a while before well, you said that Paducah has formed their sports commission, I believe you said, but they haven't started on the park project yet. They haven't started on the sports complex. Do you have any idea how long
I don't know how far along they are. Maybe that'd be a great question.
Yeah,
They haven't started. What they're working on is they have to do a interlocal agreement, ILA, with the county to talk about the remaining 17 million that they need to find in revenue, as well as ongoing operating expenses, how that's going to be covered. So that's what they're working on right now.
They both committed 12.5
Correct.
together,
Each, yeah.
each group 12.5. of ARPA funds, right? So that's
Or
what I
I
was.
think or bond. for their
I was
bond.
Well, regardless, there's gonna be a period of time between the time that county hotel tax starts to go to the sports commission before this project comes to fruition and the extra money starts flowing in. No doubt there will be, I mean, if you could get 9 or 10, turf soccer fields, boy, we'd have tournaments going on all the time and there would be, it'd be selling hotel rooms like crazy. And a lot of money would be coming in, no doubt about it. But I mean, are you talking 3 years, from the time that you rededicate that revenue stream till the time that that those new rooms start being rented? I mean, there's gonna be a period of time there where where there will be an absence of money for somebody. So I mean, that's just one question. No, none of the attractions have expressed any concern yet, but we haven't run out to them and said, hey, this is, at some point they'll figure that out and they're gonna ask that question. Sure, they're gonna ask the question of tourism, first of all, and I don't know what the answer is.
Susan, let me ask you this question as we talk about money. Let's suppose that there are 3 from the city, 3 from the county, and we're looking at $10 million to turf 6 fields, approximately 6 fields, soccer fields. And it's gonna take, well, this is just rough, we'll throw out $10 million to do that. At $10 million, what does it cost per year as a bond to pay that $10 million off over 20 years? Is it $100,000 per million?
Well, here's what I think I know.
Yeah, the best
Our
you got.
existing bond that we
Right.
have for our energy project and the fire truck. And that bond issue was, I think, 5.2 million, 5.4 million for 20 years. And our debt service right now is $450,000 a year for the debt service on the 20 years for 5.2. So
So you
Double
just
that.
double that, so it's
Double that.
$800,000 a year.
the debt service.
Do we
So
have any revenue source coming in that comes close to $800,000 a year
transient
for
room tax
hotel
isn't even
motel?
that amount. And all of this isn't, I don't know how, I appreciate Mr. Pickens and certainly Mr. Lewis. I don't know, do you all manage all these tournaments that happen every single weekend? Who does that? I mean, do they coordinate, do they talk to you and find out if the?
We coordinate some, the
Who manages the softball? Because
Yeah.
softball's the big one going on.
Yeah.
Who manages softball?
I mean,
Individuals,
but as far as selling the field or fields and booking them, is that all by volunteers?
we own. We have
So
some,
wouldn't it take a professional of some sort to coordinate
at this scale we're talking about, yes,
Yes.
at this scale? So
absolutely, absolutely,
Somebody's gonna have to get paid to do
absolutely.
this. And the existing tourism commission, we have staff.
Mhm.
Who gets paid.
Okay.
That slick paper costs money, right? Advertising. costs money.
Democrat and pay million a year, their contract, wasn't it, to operate?
So.
That's
I can
long.
tell you transient
That's a
room
good
tax
question.
is
How much do they pay a year to have professional services that contract that? How much are they paying them? Really?
I honestly don't think that'll be the issue, is getting to, and Sean, you can maybe have the ultimate perspective on this, but I think it's gonna be getting to the point of being built, because once you have it, this is a central location. There's people begging to have tournament or to be closer. Right now, we got to go to E-Town. I brought this up multiple times, or go to Grand Park just to have a soccer tournament, and it's just busting at the seams. So people are looking to do even more. So I think it will take a strict protocol on how you run it and have the right people, but it's getting to the point of having the actual structures in place, or infrastructure.
Well, but financially, you have to say, okay, how are we
Well,
going to
yeah.
pay to get
Oh,
this?
yeah.
to get it to that.
You
point.
can't just,
That was my
the
question.
detail has to be
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
They brought in over $33 million.
I don't know how much that would cost.
$800,000 a year,
So that's like that.
would be the bond payment for 10 million.
Yeah.
So, and it's gonna be, it's probably gonna be more than 10 million with all the fill and stuff, but that's a rough estimate to think about.
I can't say, as far as the city's concerned, as supporting Lakeview Park Master Plan, I'm speaking for myself. I think as long as, we're still interested in convention meeting space downtown, and we're going for that conference space. We studied that conference, the feasibility study, I forgot what the name of it was, but I think we could support about 30,000 square feet. I think that needs to be downtown. I think that's where people will want to, conventions, associations, small groups, they're going to want to do that stuff downtown. So that's what the city's going to go for. Also, I think a wellness center / YMCA, we're still looking for that to go downtown as well. That's still in the cards. So just keep that in mind when we're looking at doing things for Lakeview Park. So, we're supportive of it, but we also want to make sure we don't duplicate too much.
Mayor, when you say meeting and conference space, 30,000 square feet, really you're talking about Marriott Griffin Gate. That's what you're talking about.
Something like that.
Yeah, they've got 28,000 plus square feet of meeting and conference space. So you're looking at something like that. So my question would be is where would it go? Where would be your ideal location?
I would say where the parcels are, or somewhere downtown. Now.
And as far as a timetable, when could
I
you
think
see-
if you were going to an associate, let's say the Magistrates Association, would you rather go out to Lakeview Park and have your event, or would you rather do it downtown where there's a hotel already?
two total different, that's what I'm saying. It's different.
I know,
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm
when-
saying, but when you're
Yeah.
planning that for the
Yeah.
size,
Correct.
keep that in mind, that those,
Right.
the events like that, we want them to go downtown.
Mhm.
Cheerleading competition, something like that, somewhere, we're
Again.
talking about out there.
I agree with you. I mean, that's why I said, bro, we actually had a conference at the Marriott last week, and that's when I Googled all this. So you're looking at Marriott Griffin Gate. So what I'm asking though is, where would you put it? And what kind of timetable could you see it built in? That would be, I mean, that's what
Well, I
people
mean,
want to
you know
know.
where it's gonna go downtown. Somewhere, there's only so many places it can go.
Parcels B and C.
Or somewhere adjacent.
What kind of timetable are you thinking to build a convention center at Lakeview Park, Scott?
Oh, I think, right, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I look at it like to get the money flowing, we have to really consider doing phase one yesterday. You get phase one going, you get the turf fields built, you get the softball complex built, they're renting hotels from Mark and everybody else in this community. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So you go ahead and do phase one and you get that built out. And then you're looking at phase 2 and 3. I mean, that's me personally. I'm all for using the ARPA money to go ahead and get it started. So, as I say, no disrespect, but if you're waiting on me to get started, you're backing up because I'm ready to go.
And we don't, as far as ARPA is concerned, we don't have as much left over.
Right.
So we're using it to shore up our budget for the year and next year as well. So
Right.
that's gonna be, I wish we had more to work with there, but we don't.
12.5 million is a lot of money for city and county. Franklin County and the city don't have that kind of money. I don't know where, you say they're bonding that money, that's a lot of money to get started with that project down there. And I know you all are going another route, so I know we have 5 million in this new ARPA funding that just has come in, and that's not enough.
Scotty, do you know what the potential is for the income for this complex that you're looking at per year?
I can just go off what they've done down there. Again, their civic center was already built and 15, 16 months, again, through COVID.
Mhm.
It brought in $33 million plus to the community.
Okay.
So I can just go off those numbers.
Okay.
And that's all,
Curious.
Paducah Sun writes an article all the time.
But that's intangible money. That's not direct money into the city. And that's,
Again, like I said the other day, if we can get half of that, We can get
Hotels,
half of that.
gas.
yeah, hotel
I mean,
gas and food.
Well, I mean,
Which,
when you're looking at the hotel room side of it, they've got 2,500 hotel rooms, we've got about 800, so.
yeah,
You know, we would have to be realistic about, I mean, we couldn't, I don't think we could get half of that, you know, maybe we get a third of it. But, yeah, but, I mean, there's no doubt that if we had that number of fields, that we could get tournaments, because there is huge demand.
Yeah.
Huge demand for that. And so it definitely would bring in money. How you estimate that, I don't know, I guess that's where you're talking about trying to get a consultant of some sort to work that up for you, because I don't know how much you could expect, but no doubt there would be demand for it.
Okay, well, I think we can all agree that this vision is, can work and would be good for our community. The next step, and this is the ultimate reason why we're meeting today, is to figure out how, who, what we do to get someone in to help us with the answers or the questions that we have, as well as move us to the next step in what we need to do. So with that being said, and now we've been an hour of great discussion, let's focus in and let's put our heads together with a discussion on an RFP. Because the court needs to move forward with an RFP. The court's willing to take this to the next step. Once we know how to take it to the next step, and we don't, we're throwing out millions and millions, millions of dollars and great visions, great ideas. But when it comes down to the money, I have a treasurer back there and her head's spinning, saying, wait a minute, we gotta pay for this, we gotta pay for this, we gotta pay for this. And thank God we have a treasurer that's what her job is, and she's very good at that job. So, with that being said, anybody have ideas? Anybody have conceptually, Houston Barber, go ahead, Scotty. What are your thoughts?
City manager, would you mind to reach back out to
Not at all.
and ask them in regards to an RFP or?
Sure. I was just put it down there to
Thank you
see
so
who
much.
did they hire to figure out the financial part.
Thank you.
I would just offer this. I appreciate Squire Muller that you talked about that a benefit at something like this, it should be born more towards people visiting tourism, those coming in. But I'd say in a larger, this is going to benefit our community. And you may have to look at, it's going to have to be a combination of things to reach kind of the level that if our community can benefit, because maybe there's other things we do. I mean, we're looking at, our Parks Master Plan says we need about $30 million worth of investment. That isn't, as we all know, it doesn't come out of thin air. So same thing, we have been, you got to look at numbers, how much things are going to cost, where you can find that ongoing revenue to pay for it. And that's why I offered that some communities have done where they have a Parks and Recreation district. So there are certain things that are particularly that the community wants. It's ongoing revenue, it's a mill levy, but it's something where if we have something tangible, I think you can sell it to people. People are willing to pay for things if they know what it's going for. And that I would just offer it up and thinking about the multitude of, how many ways we can do it. Unless magically Frankfurt is allowed to do a restaurant tax or something else that we're currently not allowed to do, because we do need to find additional revenue sources to be able to pay for things. And this is, these are important things that the community has been asking for many years.
Laura, I appreciate you saying that. And one of the reasons that we picked the Hitchcock Group was because we didn't want to design something in their overall master plan that was just for tournaments and just for visitors. So, the thought around the plan that they built for, drew for Lakeview was, it's a beautiful park to use, ADA accessible, for the flying here, play sets, other things for the community to use, say Monday through Friday, but then focus on the weekends and bringing the tournaments in here to help financial. So I don't want you to think that I'm just looking at it money, because I think we're on the same page there. But I think we do need to get something going to justify the other things, start making money, start putting hotels, restaurants, have the money starting to come in, and then it's a little bit easier to build the things. So
I would offer this to I think it's just a consideration, but there's a lot of opportunity. I don't know where the new market tax credits are going, and I have no idea how that's gonna shape up. But it can turn from several $1 million to several more $1 million. I don't know that that's gonna take shape like people think, but it is an opportunity. Opportunity zones, I mean, those have been in and out. I know those can be, especially for downtown, there's opportunity there. I would say, I'm still been working on this for 7 years, taxes and property in lieu of. I know that, so it doesn't tax the citizens to death, but I think we need to come up with some strategy together on how we can gain revenue for everybody. And I would still fight for that. And the only thing, I mean, Dan Jones, I'm telling you, if you can get into his brain and see how he did it, it's an experience of the infrastructure and structures they utilized were far beyond what you can imagine, just how they built it, how they designed it. The design team, I would just ask that you reach out to his.
Can you
his
give
team.
me his contact
Yeah.
information?
Absolutely.
Send that to me via email if you would. And Laura, if you would you contact Paducah, the city manager, and ask who and if they would have a copy of their, willing to share their RFP, how they went after to form the sports authority, using that as a funding mechanism. Any other questions that Laura, go ahead,
She'd
Scott.
probably have to get it from the county. I don't know if the city would have it, but I think the county's the one that created the sports commission, so I'm sure they both may have it, but if they don't.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other? Okay, help. Mark, go ahead, Mark.
And this is really just my ignorance. But when we look at Elizabethtown and what they did, I was living there at the time when they passed the 2% restaurant tax. I know there's something about being, it's a different class city or whatever. What is holding us back as a community from being able to apply or petition to change our class status so that we could consider the passage of a restaurant tax? I think we're really limiting ourselves if we're only looking at people coming in from our community. I mean, I think that if this is something that our kids are going to use, we have to be able to at least consider other options.
Kentucky Constitution.
We're a home rule city, so we cannot do it just yet. But it is something we're talking to other cities in the same boat about addressing. It's going to take a change in the law
Yeah, we have
to
to.
do that. And you talk about E-Town, Radcliffe can't do it, but E-Town can.
Yeah.
Berea can do it, but Richmond can't.
Isn't Elizabethtown a home rule class city?
It's also, we're too large as a class of city of how we are considered too large of a class of a city. I can't remember which one. It is convoluted. Kentucky League of Cities has been lobbying on this. We've all been lobbying on this for years because the way the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, how it sets up, it's extremely limiting for local governments to raise.
They were smaller back then when we became home rule cities, same with Georgetown.
Yeah.
They're at 20,531 and we're at 25,527.
They weren't there when this changed over to a home rule city. They were smaller.
Yeah.
And they've grown into that.
And that happened in 2015. I know that they did their restaurant tax prior to 2015. So that, again, ignorance on my part, I'm really not sure, but isn't there a way in which we can, when you have a law that doesn't help the citizens and help the community, do we just say, oh, well, we can't do it, or do we actually seek out ways? And
have a meeting about this next Wednesday.
That's good.
And Superintendent Kopp, Kentucky League of Cities has been lobbying on this for years, but the General Assembly does not want to change it. We are just as frustrated as you are.
It's not even frustration. It's just really more just a consideration of trying to find other revenue streams. So, yep.
And part B to this is the counties can't do it. So not only are the League of Cities wanting to do it, but KCO is wanting to work with the League of Cities to be able to have counties have the ability to do it. So even if the city does get it, the county can't do it. And it wouldn't do us any good if we're wanting to build it in Lakeview Park, that they put a restaurant tax on because it wouldn't go to Lakeview Park. So right
Well,
now,
I think
we're not in it, we're in a quandary.
I think what Squire Tracy said earlier was really, really pertinent, and that is, you need a steady revenue stream to be able to do something like this, and we can't just think about $10 or $12 million for turf fields. I mean, this is going to be bigger than that. This is, if all of us are working together, it goes well beyond just building some fields, because, you know, if you build them, they necessarily won't come. You know, there has to be a dedicated, whether it's a commission or a management group. That's why those other facilities are successful. If you look at Elizabethtown with their sports group, you know, they have a staff of, I think it's a full-time staff of 6 people that, you know, go out and solicit these tournaments. So, you know, this is a bigger thing than just building the fields, is all I'm trying to say. So thank you.
Elizabethtown doesn't have a sports authority that runs their facilities.
They have a sports management group that is employed through their tourism. The city of Elizabethtown owns the Elizabethtown Sports Park, and then they set up a lease agreement where the Convention and Tourism Bureau leases that from them, and then the Convention and Tourism Bureau hires out this sports group, and the sports group that runs the day-to-day operations.
Okay. Different concepts, a lot of good discussion. If you'll find out the information, and we'll take that and move forward with it to the best we can, as soon as we can. Mayor, thank you. Do you have anything else you want to?
No, and I want to reiterate, we are supportive of this. This is going to be, you know, it's big for Frankfurt. I mean, we want to make sure downtown is incorporated as well, because we need things down there, you know, to help support the entire tourism and convention business. So I'm excited to see what the numbers look like. And I don't know what the RFP, that's the fiscal court's considering that, but, you know, I guess, you know, I'd like to see what the numbers look like. You know, how are we going to do it? How are we going to fund it, and what would be needed from the city, you know, from a bonding standpoint or lump sum?
And I think ultimately during the RFP, I mean, it will be written in a way to work with tourism, work with the city on the whole structure of this. So I think obviously the fiscal court's going to take the lead and get this started, but then it's going to incorporate everybody pretty much in this room to talk about it and figure it out.
We can incorporate some of the things we're already
Yeah.
committed to or planning on for the
Right.
downtown area and parks.
Well, to that point,
Okay.
Sparmuller, and everybody's using the Paducah and McCracken reference, and it does say that they did a five-party interlocal agreement. So that was their city, their county, their 2 different, I guess, tourism commissions. And then, but it says basically they use that mechanism to basically bring changes to their tax structure and to create additional revenue, obviously, and splitting up the tourism boards, and then also creation of a new agency. So somehow or another, there was an interlocal agreement involved as well, which I think those are instruments of the state, again, right, that have to be approved by the government. So whoever you considering for this professional organization should be specific to Kentucky, because as you just heard here, we could go on and on about the quirks of the Constitution here and what it causes, what kind of problems it causes us. But until we have a consolidated local government, which is a form that is allowed, and could avoid a lot of these city versus county issues and give us and be the capital community local government consolidated all together, all for one for all. But anyway, we are still, in the meantime, we're 5 parties, and I'll be the party pooper.
Thank you, Houston.
Get the money.
All right, Mark, you, Bill Cole, you'll have anything else? Scotty or Sparmuller?
Again, I just want to thank everybody for coming. I think it's a great discussion, you know, and I think we look forward to just working with everybody and moving the community in a positive direction. It's good.
Tish, you have anything?
No,
Uh,
I just
How
thanks for
about,
the invitation.
how about parks directors?
No, I mean, all in, find a way to get it done. It's gonna be expensive, but we can get it done one way or the other.
It's an investment.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about tournaments and everything, not just fields, but Capitol View will need a lot of other lighting, parking,
Yeah.
Restrooms. I mean, we're
A lot of
millions.
that's in your plan, right?
Yeah, well,
It's in
all
your
that's in
master
our
yeah.
plans, but we're talking,
We're talking about, we were, that's
2 or
one
3
thing, we can
million
talk about lighting
easily.
or any of the other
Yep.
amenities that would, that's probably.
to get
another
it, to
3
get a
million
lot
there.
more attractive to,
Uh, Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Charlie?
Well, lots of great discussion. I think the more we get away from, you guys need to do this and we need to do that, we all need to everybody needs to be on the same page for one big community project. That's the way I see it.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna end with, a week ago, this past weekend, I was in Owensboro. And I stayed downtown on the river and, 7 years ago, the chamber took us all down to Owensboro to look at what they've done, how they did it. The city and county did it together. With private help. And what they have is a masterpiece. It is a tourism mecca. They have Friday night after 5s. They had 4 bands on Friday night. They had 5,000 people down there. So they're 10 times larger than what we have. Is a great venue on our Friday nights. Saturday nights, there are 3 other bands down there playing. Hotels down on the river. But what they did do is the city and the county said, we are going to pay for this and we're going to come up with ways to have streams of money and raising, the insurance premium tax was one of them. And other ways that they did it together. And, fortunately or unfortunately, whatever, for the citizens of that area, those people that voted for it, they were reelected. Because they went out and they sold it by, this was what our community needed. And it is a gem. The riverfront is a gem. And hopefully we will be able to do that too. So with that being said, is a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thank you.